Hello from Mindset Daily, wishing you a day full of health, peace, and happiness. Thank you for watching the Mindset Daily channel. Don't forget to like and subscribe to support us. Thank you so much.
Have you ever wondered why success seems so elusive for most people? What if your own nature, not your circumstances, is the biggest obstacle in your way? And what if the key to attracting success lies not in chasing it, but in transforming who you are? Think about water running downhill. It always finds the easiest path, the one with the least resistance. And just like water, we as human beings are hardwired to follow the same rule. We're naturally programmed to conserve energy, avoid pain, and seek comfort. That's our default mode. That's where we feel safe. But here's the truth most people never confront. Success doesn't flow downstream. Success lives upstream. If you want to reach it, you have to force yourself to swim against the current, against your own biology, against the comfort that holds you back, and against the instinct to choose what's easy over what's meaningful. Now, when I say force yourself, I don't mean making yourself miserable. I'm talking about practicing the discipline it takes to rise above your default settings, to move beyond procrastination, beyond mediocrity, beyond the habit of settling for far less than what you're truly capable of. We all have two voices inside us. One says, take it easy. Do it tomorrow. No one will notice if you delay. The other says, do it now. Do what's right. Build the future you want today. And let me tell you this, the voice you listen to shapes your destiny. Most people, they listen to the wrong one. That's why they drift. That's why they delay. That's why they give in to what feels comfortable instead of doing what's necessary. They follow the path of least resistance, and they end up with results that reflect that choice. But here's the uncomfortable truth. Success is never convenient. It's never easy. It's never accidental. It's always the result of consistent, intentional action. Success comes from forcing yourself, not once, but daily, to do the very things that unsuccessful people are unwilling to do. That's the difference. That's the edge. Years ago, something happened that changed my life forever. My mentor, Mr. Skay, looked at me and said, "Jim, if you want more, you have to become more. Success is not something you pursue. Success is something you attract by the person you become." Those words hit me like a thunderbolt. It was as if a curtain had been lifted. In that moment, I realized something critical. My income, my relationships, my opportunities, they were all a reflection of who I had become. Nothing more, nothing less. My future, every part of it, was directly tied to one thing, my personal development. I realized that what I was receiving in life, my income, my opportunities, my relationships, was always in direct proportion to who I was becoming on the inside. So I made a decision. I began to force myself, not because I wanted to suffer, but because I wanted to grow. I forced myself to read books when it felt easier to scroll. I attended seminars even when I didn't feel like showing up. I searched for mentors, started journaling, and committed to setting clear, meaningful goals. I forced myself to upgrade my vocabulary, to shift my thinking, to distance myself from people who drained me and surround myself with those who elevated me. And perhaps most importantly, I forced myself to work harder on myself than I did on my job. And that's when everything started to change. But what does it really mean to force yourself? It means doing what's right, even when every part of you would rather take the easy way out. It means waking up early when the warmth of sleep is tempting you to stay. It means saving money when spending feels more exciting. It means telling the truth when a lie would be more convenient. It means preparing when others are playing. It means investing in your mind while others waste their time. It means practicing your craft while others are partying. Now, here's the beautiful twist. When you force yourself to do these things, day after day, month after month, year after year, they begin to transform. What once felt like effort becomes second nature. What once felt like restriction becomes liberation. The discipline that once felt like a burden becomes a blessing. The habits that used to feel hard eventually feel like home. And the things you once had to force yourself to do, over time, they become the very things you can't imagine not doing. Let me paint you a picture. There were two farmers. The first one forces himself to get up before dawn. He checks his equipment, prepares his fields, studies the latest techniques, keeps up with the markets. He's deliberate. He's committed. He invests in his craft. The second farmer? He sleeps in. He works when it feels convenient. He farms the way he's always farmed, never learning, never adapting. He only sells when he needs quick cash. Both of them plant seeds in the same soil. Both face the same weather, the same season. But what happens next? The same sun shines on both farms. The same rain falls from the same sky. Yet, One farmer reaps a harvest of abundance, while the other barely gets by. What made the difference? It wasn't the seeds. It wasn't the soil. It wasn't luck. The real difference lies in the discipline, in what each farmer forced himself to do consistently, especially when it wasn't easy. And here's the truth that applies to all of us. You are both the farmer and the farm. Every single day, you're planting seeds through your actions, your thoughts, your habits, and your discipline. And life will only give you what you've sown. Nothing more, nothing less. If you want a better harvest, greater success, stronger relationships, more opportunity, you must start by planting better seeds. And that requires effort. It requires choice. It requires that you force yourself. Most people get this backward. They overestimate what they can accomplish in a single day, chasing quick wins and immediate gratification. At the same time, they vastly underestimate what's possible in 5 or 10 years of focused, consistent action. Why? Because they lack patience. They lack persistence. They want instant results. And when those results don't show up overnight, they give up. But success isn't built overnight. Success is like a mighty oak tree. It doesn't grow 6 feet in a single day. It doesn't burst from the ground just because you wish it to. It grows slowly, steadily, silently, over weeks, months, and years. So what do? You keep planting. You keep watering. You keep weeding out the distractions. You keep fertilizing your growth. You keep showing up, day after day after day. And over time, something magnificent begins to grow. Now, I want to talk to you about 5 specific areas in your life where you absolutely must force yourself if you want to attract real success. These are the key arenas, the places where the line between greatness and mediocrity becomes crystal clear. First, and perhaps most urgently, you must force yourself to develop financially. Too many people spend their lives trapped in a cycle of frustration and fear about money. They complain about not having enough. They stress about bills. They wish things were different. But very few actually force themselves to learn about money. They don't study how wealth works. They don't build the habit of saving consistently. They don't commit to investing wisely. And they almost never take the time to create additional streams of income. But here's the harsh truth. Financial success doesn't show up just because you want it. It doesn't respond to need, or hope, or even desperation. It comes to those who force themselves to develop the skills, mindset, and habits that attract and sustain wealth. Success doesn't arrive simply because you want it. It doesn't show up because you feel like you deserve it. It comes to those who take the time to truly understand how it works, and then apply that understanding with discipline and consistency. So, force yourself to save at least 10% of everything you earn, no matter how small the amount may seem. Force yourself to live beneath your means, even when you're tempted to upgrade your lifestyle. Force yourself to create real value before expecting to receive anything in return. And perhaps most importantly, force yourself to study the principles of wealth creation. Not eventually, not next month, but starting today. I used to say, I hope things will turn out okay financially. But then I realized something powerful. Hope is not a strategy. Wishing and waiting won't change your financial reality. Only developing new skills, new habits, and new financial disciplines will lead to lasting change. Now, let's talk about the second area where you absolutely must push yourself. Intellectual development. Your income, your influence, your impact. They rarely exceed your level of personal growth. If you want to earn more, you must become more. And that begins with learning. But here's the problem. Most people stop learning the day they graduate. They treat education like a phase of life instead of a lifelong commitment. But success? Success is attracted to those who are constantly growing. It's drawn to people who improve themselves, who stretch their thinking, who expand their mental horizons. Success doesn't knock on the doors of those who stay stagnant. It shows up for those who stay mentally active and intellectually curious. So, force yourself to read at least 30 minutes every single day. Force yourself to attend seminars, workshops, and conferences in your field. Seek out mentors, people who've walked the path you want to take, and learn from them. Even your commute can become a classroom. Turn your car into a university on wheels by listening to podcasts, audiobooks, or courses. When I first started doing this, it wasn't easy. I wasn't naturally drawn to books. I had to push myself, really force myself, to stick with it. But I made a promise. I would read 1 book a week on subjects that could help me grow. That's 52 books a year. Over the years, that added up to thousands of books. Do you think that changed my life? You better believe it did. The books I read rewired my thinking. They gave me clarity, broadened my vocabulary, and sparked ideas I never would have had on my own. They shifted my mindset and helped me become the kind of person that success naturally gravitates toward. And that brings us to the third area where you must force yourself: relational development. Let's be real, success is not a solo pursuit. It doesn't come to lone wolves hiding in isolation. It comes to those who build genuine, meaningful relationships with others. You need customers who trust you. You need colleagues who believe in you. You need mentors who challenge and guide you. Relationships are the bridges that connect you to new opportunities, deeper understanding, and long-term growth. Let me know when you're ready for me to continue with the relational growth section. I'll maintain the same tone and structure. You also need friends who uplift you, who believe in you, and who challenge you to become better. But here's the truth. These kinds of relationships don't just fall into your lap. You won't attract strong, meaningful connections by chance. You have to force yourself to cultivate them intentionally. Force yourself to put others first, even when it's inconvenient. Force yourself to listen more than you speak, especially when you're tempted to prove your point. Force yourself to give without expecting anything in return, to keep your word even when it's hard, and to show sincere gratitude for the people who stand by you. Push yourself to resolve conflicts quickly, instead of letting them simmer. Choose to communicate with clarity and kindness, and above all, act with integrity, especially when no one is watching or when it may cost you something. I've seen incredibly talented individuals fail, not because they lacked skill or intelligence, but because they couldn't get along with others. I've watched brilliant people sabotage their own careers simply because they were difficult to work with or refused to adapt. Don't let that be your story. Force yourself to become a lifelong student of human connection. Force yourself to be the kind of person others want to be around, the kind they're eager to help, the kind they root for to win. Relationships are not just emotional luxuries. They're strategic assets in your journey to success. Now, let's talk about something we often neglect: your physical development. Your body is your primary vehicle for turning dreams into reality. If that vehicle breaks down or slows down, every other area of life suffers. And while most people understand this on a logical level, they don't take the consistent action necessary to protect and strengthen that vehicle. They let fatigue control their schedule. They let cravings decide their meals. They let comfort dictate their level of movement. But the truth is, real success demands energy. It requires stamina. It thrives on mental clarity, all of which are deeply tied to your physical health. So, force yourself to exercise regularly, even if it's just a brisk walk or short workout. Force yourself to choose foods that nourish your body, not just those that excite your taste buds for a moment. Get the rest your body actually needs. Stay hydrated. And don't ignore the importance of taking breaks when your body signals it's time to recharge. This isn't about becoming a bodybuilder or an Olympic champion. It's about respecting the only body you'll ever have. Success is drawn to people who are alive with energy, ready to take on the day, solve problems, and persist long after others give up. That kind of vitality is magnetic. Finally, the fifth area where you must push yourself: spiritual development. Now, I'm not here to preach or point you toward any particular religion or tradition. That's a personal path. But I will say this with certainty: success without meaning is ultimately empty. Achievements without a deeper purpose often feel hollow. And wealth, no matter how great, loses its value when it's not guided by wisdom. It's dangerous. You have to force yourself to clarify your values, to understand exactly what principles guide your decisions and shape your life. Without clear values, you'll be tossed around by external influences, making choices based on mood, trends, or pressure rather than purpose. You must also force yourself to define what success truly means to you. Not by society's standards, not by what others expect, but by what genuinely fulfills you at the deepest level. Force yourself to contribute to something greater than yourself, something that gives your life deeper significance. It could be your family, your faith, your community, or a cause you believe in. Live by principle, not by impulse. And when temptation strikes, or when the easy way out appears, force yourself to do what's right instead of what's convenient. Above all, develop a spirit of gratitude instead of falling into entitlement. Remind yourself often, no matter how hard you've worked, none of us is self-made. Gratitude keeps you grounded. Without it, even great success can feel hollow. I've met people who seem to have it all from the outside: beautiful homes, high-paying jobs, social status. But inside, they were depleted. No peace, no purpose, no joy. They were emotionally and spiritually bankrupt. Don't let that be your story. Force yourself to grow spiritually as intentionally as you grow materially. Because true success is whole. It reaches the soul, not just the surface. Now, let's shift into practical action steps. Because let's be honest, all the insight in the world is meaningless if it isn't applied. Knowledge without action is useless. Information without execution is just entertainment. So what's the first step? Set specific goals. Clear, measurable goals. Saying, I want to do better is not a goal, it's a wish. But saying, I want to increase my income by 25% within the next 12 months by mastering 3 new high-demand skills. That's a real, actionable goal. Don't just think about your goals, write them down. Review them daily. Break them into smaller, achievable tasks. Then, force yourself to take those steps whether you're motivated or not. Because let's face it, motivation is fleeting. Discipline is what creates results. Most people dabble. They try one thing, get bored, move on to something else, then try something else again. Their progress is scattered, and their results are minimal. But successful people commit. They pick a direction, make a decision, and force themselves to stay focused and consistent until they achieve the outcome they set out for. Distractions, failures, and discomfort don't derail them. They refocus and continue forward. Second, manage your time like your life depends on it. Because in many ways, it does. Time is the ultimate equalizer. Rich or poor, young or old, everyone gets the same 24 hours. The difference lies in how you use them. There are 24 hours in a day, but have you ever noticed how some people seem to get so much done, while others wonder where all the time went? The difference lies in intention. Some individuals force themselves to use those hours with clarity and purpose, while others let the minutes slip through their fingers, lost in a sea of trivial distractions and non-essential tasks. You must force yourself to recognize the difference between what's urgent and what's truly important. Urgent things scream for attention, but important things move your life forward. Learn to ignore the noise and focus on the signals. That means eliminating time wasters, endless scrolling, pointless conversations, aimless multitasking. You must force yourself to protect your time like it's your most valuable resource, because it is. A practical way to start: plan your day the night before. Don't just show up to life and hope for the best. Write down your 6 most important tasks, ranked by priority, not convenience. Then, in the morning, force yourself to begin with task number 1, and don't stop until it's done. This kind of focus is rare, which is exactly why it's powerful. Of course, distractions will try to pull you away, notifications, interruptions, even your own tendency to procrastinate. But remember, you can't actually manage time. You can only manage yourself in relation to time. That's where discipline comes in. That's where force is necessary. It takes force to say no to things that are merely good so that you can say yes to what's truly great. It takes force to turn off the TV, silence the phone, and direct your energy toward things that build value in your life. It takes force to stay the course when your mind begs for comfort and escape. Another critical area where force is required: your associations. Whether you realize it or not, you become a reflection of the people you spend the most time with. Their habits, their vocabulary, their mindset, even their expectations, they all rub off on you. So what does that mean for your growth? It means you must force yourself to surround yourself with people who challenge you, who stretch you, who expect more from you than you do from yourself. It means seeking out relationships that elevate your standard, not lower it. Sometimes that means making difficult choices, limiting time with friends who drain your energy or hold you back. Sometimes it means finding mentors who intimidate you a little because they're further ahead and living a version of the life you aspire to. Sometimes it even means changing your job, your circle, or your environment altogether. Because the truth is simple: you can't fly with the eagles if you're scratching around with the turkeys. You can't unlock your highest potential while anchored to mediocrity. Surrounding yourself with people who are comfortable settling for less will inevitably pull you down to their level. That's why you must be intentional. You must force yourself to seek out mentors, colleagues, and friends who aim high, who push their limits, and who expect greatness not just from themselves, but from you too. The people around you should elevate your standard, not normalize mediocrity. Now, let's talk about one of the most underrated but vital aspects of success: managing your emotions. Success isn't only drawn to your skills or achievements. It's deeply connected to your energy, your mindset, and how you show up emotionally. Think about it. Are you letting your emotions control your actions, or are you taking control of your emotional state? Most people let their feelings ride the roller coaster of external events. Something goes wrong, and their mood crashes. Something goes right, and they're elated. They live like emotional weather vanes, spinning in whichever direction the wind blows. But successful people? They choose a different approach. They force themselves to maintain a consistent, empowered emotional state, no matter what's happening around them. They understand a powerful truth: emotion follows motion. If you want to feel different, move differently. Stand taller. Breathe with intention. Speak with conviction. Your body is a lever that can shift your emotional experience in an instant. And beyond that, they know that what you focus on shapes your feelings. Focus on your progress instead of your problems, and your confidence begins to grow. Focus on possibilities rather than limitations, and hope starts to return. That's why you must stand guard at the door of your mind. Don't let just any thought or emotion walk in and take up residence. Force yourself to shift your focus, to see opportunities instead of obstacles, to look for solutions instead of stewing in problems. Ask yourself better questions. Instead of, why is this happening to me? Ask, what is this trying to teach me? Your language matters too. Say, I get to, rather than I have to. Say, I'm learning, instead of I'm failing. Replace never again with next time. These small shifts in words can trigger massive shifts in perspective. And now we come to a key piece in attracting lasting success: developing your skills. Success doesn't chase the average or the ordinary. It's magnetically drawn to mastery, to those who are undeniably excellent at what they do. So what does this mean for you? You must force yourself to practice, not just occasionally, but consistently. Practice until you don't just get it right. Practice until you can't get it wrong. That's the level of excellence that attracts breakthroughs and opportunities. Most people stop once they're good enough. But the successful? They keep going until they're outstanding. They understand that mastery is a journey, not a destination. It's not about showing up once. It's about showing up over and over again, with focus, with discipline, with heart. Successful people never graduate from learning. School may end, but growth never should. That's why you must force yourself to identify the most important skills in your field, the ones that truly move the needle. Then, study the masters, those who have already achieved excellence in those areas. Don't just watch from afar. Observe, dissect, apply. And when you practice, don't just repeat what you're already good at. Force yourself to face your weaknesses head on. That's where the real growth happens. Push past the comfort zone of competence and into the uncomfortable space of improvement. Seek out feedback, even when it stings. Learn to welcome constructive criticism. It's a mirror that reflects where you still need to sharpen your edge. Because here's the truth. The marketplace rewards value, not potential. And value doesn't come from being average. It comes from becoming exceptional, from developing rare, refined, high-impact skills that solve real-world problems. When your skills solve real pain for real people, success has no choice but to find you. Now, let's address the elephant in the room. Some of you might be thinking, this all sounds like a lot of work. This sounds hard. And you're absolutely right. It is hard. Building a life of purpose, fulfillment, and freedom isn't easy. That's exactly why so few people achieve it. That's what makes it worth pursuing. If success were easy, everyone would have it, and it wouldn't hold much value. But here's the deeper insight. While success is hard, failure is hard too. Mediocrity is hard. Living paycheck to paycheck is hard. Waking up with regret is hard. Feeling stuck year after year? That's hard. So, the real question isn't whether your life will be hard. It will be. The question is, which kind of hard do you want? Do you want the challenge that shapes you into someone stronger, wiser, and more fulfilled? Or the challenge that leaves you feeling trapped, bitter, and behind your potential? Personally, I choose the hard that leads to growth. I choose the hard that results in real achievement, in deep satisfaction. And I hope you'll make the same choice. Because the effort you put in now, the discipline, the focus, the sacrifice, becomes the freedom you'll enjoy tomorrow. Let me take you into a vision of two very different days in your life. One of them hasn't happened yet, but its direction will be shaped by what you choose today. Imagine a day in the future, a day where everything you've worked for has come to fruition. Your finances are stable and abundant. Your relationships are strong, uplifting, and deeply fulfilling. Your health is vibrant. You feel energized, capable, and alive. Your contributions to the world are meaningful, and your work resonates with purpose. On that day, you wake up with genuine excitement and close your eyes at night with deep satisfaction. That day represents what's possible when you fully commit to becoming your best self. Now, contrast that with today. Today is not the day of achievement, but the day of decision. This is the moment when you must choose whether to push through resistance or let it hold you back. Will you discipline yourself, or will you delay what matters most? Will you take bold steps forward, or will you drift in comfort, hoping things somehow improve? These 2 days, today and that dream day in the future, are more connected than they seem. Every choice you make now lays the foundation for what's to come. The discipline you apply today will shape your destiny. The small, seemingly insignificant decisions, like getting up early, choosing focus over distraction, choosing growth over ease, will determine whether your future unfolds by intentional design or by passive default. The truth is simple. Today's force becomes tomorrow's freedom. Today's consistency becomes tomorrow's success. And the seeds you decide to plant now, habits, values, actions, will determine the harvest you eventually enjoy. I can't make these choices for you. No one can. But I can help make the consequences crystal clear. If you commit to forcing yourself to do what's necessary, consistently, over time, you will inevitably attract success. It won't happen overnight, but it will happen. Not by luck, not by chance, but by deliberate labor. Success isn't something that stumbles into your life. It's built, brick by brick, through daily effort. Now, you might be asking, but what if I force myself and still don't succeed? That's a fair concern. But let me ask you a better question. What's the alternative? If you don't force yourself, what happens then? You drift. You delay. You settle. You let life happen to you instead of creating it. And where does that path lead? I've observed it time and time again. It leads to regret, stagnation, and a life half-lived. But when you force yourself, even if the results don't come immediately, something far more powerful happens. You grow. You evolve. You become stronger, wiser, and more capable. And that transformation is a success in itself. That kind of growth, deep, internal transformation, is something no one can ever take from you. It stays with you, shapes who you are, and strengthens how you face every challenge ahead. Let me share a perspective that may shift how you view the process. Success isn't only about reaching the destination. It's also about the journey. It's not just about what you eventually acquire. It's about the person you become in the process of earning it. When you force yourself to read books, you're not simply absorbing information. You're training your mind to think critically, to expand, to stretch beyond its comfort zone. When you force yourself to save money, you're not just watching your bank account grow. You're cultivating discipline, self-control, and foresight. And when you make a habit of keeping your word, you're not just fulfilling commitments. You're building a foundation of trust, integrity, and character. That's the real value in forcing yourself. It's not only about the external accomplishments, though those are important. It's about the internal evolution. It's about becoming the kind of person who's capable of success, the kind of person who deserves it, and, perhaps most importantly, the kind of person who can sustain it once it's achieved. See, many people want success, but they're not willing to become someone new. They hope their circumstances will shift, that life will somehow improve, without them having to grow. They want their world to adjust to their comfort rather than building the strength to transform their world. But that's not how real success is earned. Success doesn't just show up at your door. You must grow into it. And part of that growth is understanding the different seasons of success. Why? Because each season requires a different kind of force, timed just right, applied with intention. The first season is preparation. This is the season where things may seem slow, where the results aren't obvious, but the groundwork is being laid. You're learning, planning, practicing, and developing behind the scenes. During this phase, you must force yourself to be patient. You must resist the temptation to rush, and instead, stay committed to building strong foundations. It's the season where you're sharpening your skills before expecting big breakthroughs. And yes, this season can be frustrating. You may feel like nothing's moving fast enough. But the truth is, this stage is essential. You can't harvest what you haven't planted and nurtured. You may be working harder than ever, yet seeing little in return. This is the season when most people throw in the towel, not because they're not capable, but because they can't see past the present moment. They lose sight of the bigger picture, forgetting that preparation is often invisible until it suddenly bears fruit. Without vision, the grind feels pointless. But with vision, you realize this season is simply the quiet foundation of everything to come. Next comes the second season, planting. This is where you take the leap. It's the moment you begin applying what you've studied, what you've practiced. You launch that business, release the product, nurture new relationships, make meaningful investments, both in yourself and in the future you're building. But this season demands something few are willing to give: risk. You must force yourself to face uncertainty head-on. You have to push through the fear of failure and act anyway. This is a season that calls for boldness, because you're exposed, you're vulnerable, and the outcome isn't guaranteed. And that's exactly why most people avoid it altogether. They sit on the sidelines, waiting for perfect timing or full certainty, neither of which ever comes. So they miss the chance to plant anything meaningful. Then comes the third season, cultivation. This is the long, often thankless middle. You've planted the seeds, and now your job is to nurture them. You refine your strategies. You solve unexpected problems. You course correct, troubleshoot, and fine-tune. In this season, you must force yourself to stay sharp. The details matter. Your standards must remain high even when the motivation dips. This stage tests your endurance because the initial thrill of starting something new has worn off. And yet, the finish line is still out of sight. It's like climbing a steep hill with no idea how much further to go. Most people quit here, not due to lack of talent, but because they can't stay committed when the rewards are still hidden beneath the surface. And finally, you enter the fourth season, harvest. This is the moment when everything begins to shift. The money starts flowing. Recognition appears. Opportunities start to chase you. Your impact grows. And while this might sound like the easy part, it brings its own unique challenge. You must now force yourself to stay grounded. In the midst of success, you must remind yourself of the discipline and values that brought you here. Don't let the rewards blind you. Force yourself to remain humble, to keep growing, and to share what you've earned with others. Because this is also the season where many people stumble, lulled into complacency, seduced by ego, or distracted by excess. Many people who finally reach this season of harvest fail to maintain it. Not because they aren't capable, but because they lose sight of what got them there. They forget the principles, the discipline, the consistent effort that led to their success. And so, the cycle resets. They're back to square one. New preparation, new planting, new cultivation, and eventually, a new harvest. That's the nature of sustainable success. It isn't a one-time milestone. It's a continuous journey, an evolving process that demands renewed effort and a willingness to stretch beyond comfort. Each time you level up, you'll need to force yourself again in new ways. The challenges change, but the principle remains. Success always requires action backed by intention. As you ascend to higher levels, the pressure intensifies, but so does your capacity to handle it if you keep growing. Now, I know some of you might be asking a valid question. Isn't all this a bit self-centered? Forcing myself to succeed, doesn't that just mean chasing what I want? It's an important question, and the answer is clear. True success is never just about you. Real success isn't only about personal gain, it's about contribution. It's about making a positive impact. It's about leaving people, situations, and the world better than you found them. When I talk about forcing yourself to attract success, I'm talking about something deeper than wealth or recognition. I'm talking about becoming a person of value in every area of life. It means becoming someone who uplifts others simply by showing up. It means building something that will endure long after you're gone. The most meaningful success emerges when you shift from serving only yourself to serving others. That's when fulfillment begins to take root. When you force yourself to solve real problems, not just for profit, but for purpose, you tap into a higher level of success. When you create opportunities that benefit more than just your own interests, you become a catalyst for growth in others. I've met people with impressive bank accounts who were painfully lonely because they never made time to build real relationships. I've seen celebrities celebrated on stage but feeling empty inside because they never found purpose beyond applause. And I've seen powerful individuals live in constant fear because they never grounded their power in meaningful service. They never forced themselves to build the inner security that sustains lasting success. Don't let that be your story. Push yourself to define success in a way that includes more than just status, money, or recognition. Make it about wholeness, about becoming the kind of person who grows in every area of life. Challenge yourself to pursue not only achievement, but also significance. Let your life be a reflection of purpose, not just performance. Let me tell you about two individuals I've observed over the years. On paper, they looked almost identical. Similar talents, similar resources, similar beginnings. But that's where the similarities ended. One of them made a conscious decision to live with discipline. He pushed himself to gain wisdom, to nurture meaningful relationships, to operate with integrity, and to consistently create value. He didn't wait for things to happen. He made them happen. The other one took the path of least resistance. He gave in to the temptation of shortcuts whenever they appeared. He prioritized comfort and instant gratification over real growth. He used people rather than connected with them. He settled for temporary pleasure instead of investing in long-term fulfillment. Fast forward 20 years, and the results spoke for themselves. The first man had built a thriving business, a close-knit family, and a legacy that touched countless lives. The second was surrounded by regret, failed ventures, broken trust, and lost potential. They started in the same place, but they ended in very different destinations. Why? Because one of them forced himself to grow, and the other didn't. Now the question becomes, which one will you be? That's a decision only you can make. But it is a decision, one that requires daily intention and commitment. Success never falls into your lap. It's not about chance. It's about consistent alignment between your daily habits and your deepest values, your short-term actions and your long-term vision. And let's be honest, there will absolutely be days when motivation is low. Days when everything inside you says, skip it just this once. Days when sleeping in feels better than showing up. When Netflix sounds more fun than reading. When swiping your card feels easier than sticking to your budget. So how do you force yourself to do what you know needs to be done, even when you don't feel like it? First, reconnect with your why. Don't just remind yourself of what you're working toward. Remind yourself of why it matters. The deeper and more emotionally meaningful your reason, the easier it becomes to push past resistance. A strong enough why will always carry you through the how. When your purpose outweighs your excuses, action becomes almost inevitable. Second, use the 5-second rule. The moment you recognize you need to act, whether it's making a call, starting that workout, or having that tough conversation, count backward. 5-4-3-2-1, and then move. Don't overthink. Don't hesitate. Just go. But when the moment comes and you still don't feel like doing it, count backward. 5, 4, 3, 2, 1, then move. Don't pause. Don't negotiate with yourself. Don't wait for motivation to magically appear. The truth is, motivation doesn't come before action, it follows it. Once you take that first small step, momentum begins to build, and the resistance that felt so heavy starts to fade. Third, create accountability. Tell someone you trust exactly what you plan to do and when you plan to do it. Ask them to follow up with you. Knowing that someone else is watching, waiting, and expecting results can give you that extra surge of pressure to follow through, especially on the days when your internal drive feels weak or uncertain. Fourth, change your environment. Sometimes, willpower isn't the problem, your surroundings are. So make the right behaviors easy and the wrong ones inconvenient. Want to read more? Place books in plain sight and remove distractions like your phone to another room. Want to eat better? Fill your pantry with healthy options and remove the junk that tempts you. Want to save money? Set up automatic transfers so that your savings grow before you're even tempted to spend. Fifth, practice visualization. Close your eyes and vividly see yourself doing what needs to be done. See yourself making the call, finishing the workout, giving the presentation. Imagine the results, the pride, the satisfaction, the sense of progress. Your brain doesn't fully distinguish between real action and clearly imagined scenarios. So when you mentally rehearse success, you prime yourself to take that same action in real life more confidently and consistently. Sixth, start small. Don't try to overhaul your life in a single leap. That often leads to overwhelm and burnout. Instead, force yourself to take one simple step today, then another tomorrow. Success doesn't come in massive waves. It's built one deliberate, disciplined action at a time. And as those small wins accumulate, your confidence grows, and the bigger changes no longer feel so intimidating. Seventh, practice gratitude. Be intentionally thankful, not just for the good moments, but for the opportunities to grow, to struggle, to stretch yourself. When you see challenges as chances to become stronger, when you feel grateful for the grind itself, you'll begin to welcome discipline as a gift, not a punishment. Be thankful for the ability to choose how you respond to life's challenges. Gratitude is powerful. It shifts your mindset from obligation to opportunity. Instead of thinking, I have to do this, you begin to think, I get to do this. And that single shift in perspective makes it far easier to push yourself, especially when discipline feels like a struggle. Now, let me share a truth most motivational speakers won't tell you. Forcing yourself doesn't actually get easier. What changes is you. You get stronger. You build resilience. You develop a new baseline of discipline. The things that once demanded intense willpower eventually become second nature. Not because the tasks change, but because you do. I still remember when making sales calls used to scare me out of my mind. My palms would sweat, my hand would tremble as I reached for the phone, and my voice would barely stay steady. But I pushed through. I made those calls every single day, even when I didn't want to. I forced myself through the discomfort. And over time, those same calls that once filled me with dread became effortless. I no longer had to force it, it became automatic. That's the power of repetition. What you consistently force yourself to do eventually becomes part of who you are. The same principle applies whether it's saving money, working out, reading consistently, having tough but necessary conversations, or choosing honesty when cutting corners would be easier. The willpower required decreases over time as the habit takes root and your identity evolves. So, if it feels difficult right now, don't worry. That's normal. That's exactly how transformation begins. You're building muscle, mentally and emotionally. And if you stay with it, there will come a day when those actions you're struggling to do now will feel like second nature. Effortless, automatic, and even enjoyable. Now, let's address something else that might be weighing on your mind. You might be thinking, I've tried forcing myself before, and I failed. Maybe you made a promise to yourself and didn't keep it. Maybe you set a goal and fell short. And now, that memory haunts you. Maybe you've abandoned your goals before. You started off strong, filled with motivation and determination, but somewhere along the way, it faded. You couldn't sustain the momentum. Guess what? You're not alone. Welcome to the club. We've all been there at some point. The real question isn't whether you'll ever fail at forcing yourself to follow through. The real question is, what will you do when you fail? Unsuccessful people often see failure as a verdict. They throw up their hands and say, see, I knew I wasn't cut out for this. I knew I didn't have what it takes. And with that, they stop trying. But successful people? They look at failure as feedback. They ask themselves, what can I learn from this? How can I improve my strategy next time around? If you've fallen short before, don't waste time beating yourself up. Self-criticism doesn't create change, curiosity does. Get curious. Were your goals unrealistic? Did you try to tackle too many habits at once? Did you lack a system of accountability? Did you fail to anticipate the roadblocks that showed up? Use those questions to gain insight, not to justify giving up. Because real success is built through iterations, not through flawless first attempts. It's not about being perfect. It's about making progress. It's not about getting everything right the first time. It's about being willing to adjust, learn, and evolve. Success doesn't require perfection. It demands persistence. And that persistence must be renewed daily. It's not a one-time declaration. It's a daily decision. Each morning when your feet hit the floor, you're given a choice. Will you choose comfort or growth? Will you settle for what's easy, or will you pursue what's meaningful? Will you delay your dreams for temporary pleasure, or discipline yourself for lasting fulfillment? Some days, the decision will feel natural. You'll wake up energized and focused. Other days, motivation will be nowhere in sight, and everything inside you will beg to hit snooze on your potential. That's when your commitment must rise above your mood. Because feelings are fleeting, but the consequences of your actions are lasting. So here's what I want you to remember. Success isn't only about what you accomplish on the outside. It's about who you're becoming on the inside. When you force yourself to build discipline, when you push for excellence, when you create value and serve others, you attract more than just achievement. You develop something even greater, deep, unshakable fulfillment. And that's a kind of wealth no one can take from you. Don't wait for the perfect conditions. Don't wait for the ideal timing. Don't wait to feel 100% ready. That moment may never come. Start now, with what you have, right where you are. Force yourself to take the first small step, then the next after that. Remember, progress creates momentum. Action builds confidence. Motion beats hesitation. Because in the end, success isn't random. It's attracted to certain qualities. It's drawn to discipline. It follows integrity. It rewards knowledge, resilience, contribution, and deliberate skill. So force yourself. Consistently, patiently, and with purpose. When you commit to developing these qualities, success will begin to be drawn to you, just as surely and powerfully as iron is pulled toward a magnet. But here's the deeper truth. The greatest force you can ever apply isn't external. It's not physical strength, or even willpower. It's purpose. When you gain clarity on why you're doing what you're doing, when your daily actions reflect your truest values and your work contributes to something far bigger than yourself, something remarkable happens. You begin to need less external pressure. The discipline you once had to force slowly transforms into internal drive. What started as "I have to" evolves into "I want to." That shift changes everything. That's the real destination. Not a life of endless self-pushing, but a life where your purpose fuels your progress. Where discipline feels less like duty and more like desire. Where forcing yourself gives way to freedom. So pause and ask yourself honestly, who do I need to become in order to attract the level of success I truly desire? What daily habits must I develop to get there? What key skills do I need to sharpen? What relationships must I nurture or repair? What contributions can I make that create lasting value? Then commit, day by day, moment by moment, to becoming that person. Force yourself through the resistance. Push yourself to follow through. Choose growth over ease, even when no one is watching. Because the path won't always be smooth, but it will always be worth it. The force you apply might not feel pleasant at first. Growth often stretches us in uncomfortable ways. But over time, that same force will produce transformation. And the success you begin to attract won't just make your life better. It will put you in a position to make other lives better too. Because that's what true success really is. It's not just what you gain, it's what you give. Not just what you achieve, but who you become in the process. Not just what you possess, but what you pass on. So make the commitment. Force yourself today to earn the success that waits for you tomorrow. Train in private so you can shine in public. Push through the quiet hours so that one day your voice carries with confidence. Step outside your comfort zone so your comfort zone expands, making room for greater dreams, wider opportunities, and deeper purpose. Remember, the future belongs to those who prepare for it. The rewards will find those who've earned them. And success is magnetically drawn to those who have become worthy of it. You are capable of that. You are worthy of that. You already hold the potential. Now force yourself to rise and fulfill it. Because when you do, success won't just show up, it will chase you down. Thank you for investing your time and attention today. I wish you strength, wisdom, and a life filled with purpose. Stay healthy, stay motivated, and don't forget to subscribe to Mindset Daily for more empowering content just like this.